Hi, welcome to another video. I'm going to use this one as a little show and tell for something I've been working on for a while, although I have been waiting basically 2 weeks for this to arrive. Anybody who has seen most electronics channels recently will have heard of these people, JLC PCB. This box arrived today. Really exciting because it's a first edition or revision 1 of my latest charge controller. Now, I don't know how many of my subscribers are aware that for a while I've been selling a version of Julian Eilert's PWM5. He gave me permission to use all his code, his original circuit diagrams. So for the past 18 months I've been selling a couple of versions. I've been selling a surface mount one. This is his one that's not quite complete. It's got no PIC micro on it or no MOSFET. I've got loads and loads of bits of these lying around from various production runs that I've done on them. I've tested quite lots of destruction, which is kind of the idea. That way I know that if I sell a kit, it's going to work. And I've had nothing but positive results and positive feedback on the kits I sell. So I'm guessing I'm doing something right. So that was what I call my Pico. That's now in a 3rd revision. I do have a PWM5 through hole, which I'm just trying to find, look around on my desk for my bench here, and I can't find one. I had one just a few seconds ago. It's a slightly larger version of that, but it's all through hole. I really can't find it, and I have literally just had it. But this is going to be the PWM10. Here's the grand unveiling. To be fair, I've actually already opened it. I was too excited not to open it. I ordered 10, got a bit carried away, but JLC PCB have changed their production quantities, I shall say, for your $2. Now you only get 5 instead of 10. So I did order 10, so I paid a bit extra, but I figured it's worth spending a couple of extra quid and getting some spares. But this version here, instead of having just the one MOSFET, it uses an IRF3205 as its main MOSFET. I have doubled it, so this is going to use 2 IRF3205s, Q4 Q5. I've also increased the size of the wire holes, so these are now, I think, 75 millis, so they're quite big. Maybe more than that, 80 millis maybe. I think they're perhaps a little bit too big, because this very, very thick wire passes straight through, no problem at all. So this will take a 10 gauge wire, I would think. Certainly a 12 gauge will fit in there without an issue, which I think is probably a good thing if you want to put thick solar wires in. Perhaps some people do, especially with lower voltage. You need slightly more current than if you're running a higher voltage system. But what I've done with this one is I've included an RC network for the MOSFET gate, and the idea of that is to try and reduce, sorry, there's a light on there, try and reduce potential oscillations. I suspect it won't have any oscillations, but what I want to do is make sure it doesn't. So that's the new board. I will be testing these to pretty much destruction. Obviously the only things that are ever going to fail is probably the MOSFETs. I am aware that I'm going to have to use identical MOSFETs. A lot of Chinese manufacturers of charge controllers just link them all pins together and hope for the best. In my experience, that can work provided the MOSFETs are fairly well balanced. It's possible that it'll be fine, so I do need to test it. But I have included an RC network just to balance out any potential problems. I'm going to be making certainly an initial batch of 2 of these boards. One of them will have an ERC network included, and one of them won't. I'll just be linking straight across with the drive from the transistor, the switching transistor, straight into the gate, and we'll see what happens. And I'll run it like that and just check reliability, really. So when I've designed this, I've included a cut here, which I can cut this track or I can leave it open, depending on which configuration I'm using. The production board, I've not included any of the RC network. I'm not expecting it to be needed, so that is only included on this just as to try. Otherwise, it's basically an identical circuit to the PWM5 that I've been selling for 18 months or so. This is all through hole, obviously. I think I've sized the resistors to stand on end. Yes, I kind of quite like that. It kind of harks back to like 60s and 70s Japanese and like Korean, South Korean, and then Hong Kong kind of electronics from I remember when I was young. So I do kind of like to stand the resistors on end, and I have done that again with this. Other than that, I'm just going to build the board, try it, and I'll update when I get a bit more information on how it's working. So if you find this sort of thing interesting, then comment or like, send me messages. I'm quite happy to discuss this sort of thing with anybody. So there you go. So that is now going to be the first production version, or the first revision I should say, of the PWM10. Thanks for watching.